So I meant to get this one out yesterday, but for whatever reason I just could not turn off NFL Red Zone. But guys, it's time to talk some automatic authors. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back today to do a little bit of, not really a ranking as much as just kind of making some adjustments. Back in 2020, guys, I did make a list of what I called my automatic authors. Now, back then I called it like power ranking or whatever, but this isn't necessarily a ranking as much as it is. I'm just talking about automatic authors. Now, what this means is this author puts out a new book, I'm throwing my credit card at the screen the moment that it's announced. It's something that I'm going to be picking up. This doesn't necessarily mean I've read every single thing, every single word they've ever written, because there are some things where, hey, you don't have enough time in the day. I'd like to read everything I got, but sometimes I can't. I get to it eventually. But these are authors that, yes, eventually I will have read everything that they have written because they are some of my favorites. Now, the reason I wanted to update this list, guys, is because if you go back to that list from 2020, some of those authors have moved out, and obviously with this one, some new authors have moved in. I've read a lot more authors in the last 3 years, and maybe I've found some misses from some of those other authors that have kind of moved them off of that list. So again, I want to make sure that everybody knows that these aren't ranked. I'm just going to talk about, I've got 11 authors right now that no matter what they put out going forward, I will be buying and hopefully reading sooner rather than later if time does allow. Let's kick it off with, let's get the big one out of the way, guys. You know, number one for me, if I did have a number one on this list, if I was ranking them, it would be Stephen King. And it's kind of funny that I say this because he did come out with a new book this week or last week, and I'm not currently reading it. Of course, Stephen King, master storyteller, my favorite author. If you spent even a minute of time on this channel, you know he's my favorite author by now. So everything the guy puts out, I'm going to be getting, and I will get to, obviously, before I shuffle off this Mortal Coil. There is no other author that's going to be on this list that will, without any doubt, get my money. It could be his grocery list on a napkin, and I am paying for it as going to happen. That's just the privilege you get when you are my favorite author of all time. And the fact that he's still putting out new books at this age is just amazing me. Not only that, he's putting out like one or two a year still. So the guy is just a machine, and I hope he keeps writing forever. Next up, guys, let's move into the fantasy genre. I've got to go with John Gwynne. Now, John Gwynne has put out 9 books so far, and I have enjoyed every single one of them. Obviously, Faithful and the Fallen is my favorite, and that's something that I obviously recommend any fantasy fan picks up as soon as humanly possible. Then he has the kind of the spin-off of that in the same universe, the Blood and Bone, which I enjoyed immensely, and we're 2/3 into the way for the Bloodsworn saga. All of his books have been hits for me. Not even some of my favorite authors have been 9 for 9 with me. You know, they're not batting 1,000. So the guy has just been amazing. I love the way that he writes fantasy. It's easily digestible, but it's not like simple or anything like that. I love the way that he writes characters. I love the way that he makes me want to root for this group of characters coming together and taking on the world. He's really, really good at it. And now that he's dipping his toes into a little bit of Norse mythology, obviously that's something I'm very, very into. So yeah, I can't wait for the conclusion of Bloodsworn, where I am pretty much sure he's going to hit 10 out of 10 for me. So John Gwynne, old vicious pen, Silverbeard himself. I hope you guys will pick up his books, and I think you will be quite happy with what you find. How about another one of my heavy hitters, guys? My favorite modern fantasy author. This is Joe Abercrombie. Now, look, I know I was kind of iffy on Shattered Sea, but the guy has got, 9 First Law books, have all been amazing, and any new series he puts out, or if another First Law book, please, yes, more First Law, that's going to be automatic buy for me. I think that Joe gets the benefit of the doubt with me. I love his writing style. He is the only one I know that could be writing absolutely horrible, horrible stuff, and I will be laughing the whole time because he just has this way of just writing this wicked black humor that just makes you laugh in situations that you wouldn't find yourself laughing in with any other writer. So the guy's he's a wizard that way. I feel like he's raised the bar for every other grimdark author at this point, where if it isn't similar to First Law, I feel like you're missing what made that story so special. So again, I think that anything he puts out, I hope he doesn't go back to YA, because that's not what I read Joe Abercrombie for. Now look, I think Shattered Sea had a lot of good stuff in it if you were looking for that kind of story, but I think if you're wanting more First Law, you're going to be very, very disappointed. So I do know there are people who love Shattered Sea, and I understand why. But again, no matter what he puts out going forward, I am going to give it a try. The man has earned my trust at this point. How about some thrillers, guys? You guys know I am a big Michael Crichton fan. Well, I am happy to say I think I have finally found the heir apparent to Michael Crichton. That is Blake Crouch. This guy is just amazing. Every single thing I've read by him so far has been a hit for me. I think back to my least favorite book I've read by him, Abandoned, was still a damn good book. This guy is just metal. Dark Matter was amazing. That's where I started. Recursion followed up with that. Then Wayward Pines. It's like, how am I going backwards and I'm just loving all this stuff? Usually you go backwards in an author's bibliography and you start to be like, they've definitely gotten better. But with him, it hasn't really kind of turned out that way. It's just all been great. I've loved it all. I feel like he's kind of going to be in that thriller category. But I feel like he does kind of dip his toe into several different genres. And I love that he always puts like an emphasis on family. That's something that's really, really nice. And there's so many great things about his books, guys, and where you can just sit down, just like I used to do with the Michael Crichton book. I got a new Michael Crichton book, I'd make a pot of coffee, and I would knock that book out one night. That's how I always was with Michael Crichton. And I feel like Blake Crouch, you can do the same. A couple of sittings, man, because you cannot stop turning those pages. It is just a thrill ride. His books are incredible, and anything he puts out next, I will be reading on day one without a doubt. Going back to fantasy here, I think this one might be kind of surprising to people because, I don't know, he's kind of gotten this reputation as, a lot of like adult male fantasy fans aren't going to like his stuff. Well, I've read 4 books so far by Jay Kristoff, and I have been impressed with all 4 of them, and I am very, very excited. I think Empire of the Damned might be my most anticipated book of 2024 because I loved Empire of the Vampire. I know it's a book that has very, very divisive opinions. Well, I fall on the side that really, really liked it because I've been waiting for so long. Even Anne Rice wasn't writing vampires the way that I wanted her to anymore. So someone finally writing scary vampires again, that's something that I was very much into. And I feel like the cover kind of steers some people away or what they've heard. I'm here to tell you guys, if you want scary vampires, this is it. This was like the most fun I've had with a vampire story since like Salem's Lot, since like the early years of the Vampire Chronicles. This was the kind of stuff that I was really, really wanting and thought was gone. I thought that was just something that was just gone by the wayside. We were only going to have sexy vampires in love with teenage girls going forward. But apparently there are some still out there who are doing it the right way. And then Nevernight. I love Nevernight. I feel like just like everyone else, I am very, very sick of, the teenage protagonist going through an academy. I'm as sick of it as everyone else is. Somehow he found a way to make it actually really fresh and really, really fun. And I think that Mia is one of the best female protagonists I've ever read. And she's basically like what I got from Vin in God, what's it called? The Mistborn trilogy, but made her somehow even better and more relatable and more fun somehow. And another thing that Jay Kristoff does that's really cool is he writes like a companion. It doesn't necessarily have to be an animal companion. He puts a companion in all the stories I've read so far, and I've enjoyed what he has done with those up to this point. But Jay Kristoff, I'll say, guys, not PG. It's not PG. It's very, very, there's a lot of spicy scenes. Like I said, I'll make it kind of be like, ooh, when you read them a little bit. So there is a little bit of that. And I always say that I feel like male fantasy authors need to stop doing that. No, he's actually quite good at it. He's actually quite good. When I talked to him on the channel, he told me his origins in that he read a lot of his wife's erotica novels. So hey, he did his homework, and that's why he's pretty good at it. But it's very violent, and he uses some of the best combinations of curse words I've ever heard. So if you aren't into those kind of things, you find that kind of juvenile, he might not be an author for you. So I say don't be listening to the audiobook while you got the kids in the car. But I do think Jay Kristoff is an author that no matter what he puts out going forward, I think he's got my money up to this point, and he's just an awesome, awesome bloke. I love talking to him. Next up, another guy who's really awesome. This is kind of a new one here, and this is probably the only self-pub author I have on this list. I'm talking about Ryan Cahill. You've heard me talk about The Bound and the Broken a lot recently. Guys, this is the most that I am into like a new fantasy world. Gosh, I hate to make this comparison because I'm not comparing it to it. But I'm saying this is the most I'm into a brand new fantasy world than when I first started reading A Song of Ice and Fire. That's how much I'm digging his world. I love good dragon fantasy if it's done right. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, I tried reading the first book and I thought this. Forget what you think. It is an amazing series, and it just continues to grow and grow. And of War and Ruin, if it wasn't for Lonesome Dove, that'd be the best book I've read this year. And that's like an 1,100-page book, and it's so incredible. That book, and this series overall, is he has so many different plot threads going on in that series, and they're all worthwhile. It's amazing how he balances it. So obviously he's only got one series under his belt right now. But if he came out tomorrow and said, you know what, I'm going to write a sci-fi series next, I say I'm going to try it, no doubt. So Bound and Broken is easily one of my favorite fantasy series going right now, and I feel like Ryan is definitely going to be one of those. I mean, he's getting more and more popular as time goes by here. He's very popular on BookTube, obviously, and I just think that his books are as advertised, guys. They are that good, especially if you're into dragon fantasy. I think you're going to find a lot of things that you do love about his book. So I can't wait to see what he does next. How about some Song of Ice and Fire? Now, look, I'll make the jokes with you guys. I'll talk about how, oh, well, I can't put George on here because George doesn't actually write anymore. Ha, ha, I'll make those jokes with you. I'll clown about how the series is never going to finish. But you know what I will also say is that George R. R. Martin is one of my favorite authors to ever walk the face of the earth. I love the man. Faults and all. Yes, I am a frustrated reader who was reading long before HBO even had the rights to A Song of Ice and Fire. So I've been waiting painfully long amounts of time for the series to be completed. But when I go back and think about it, the only problem I have with the series is that it's not completed. The guy has written 5 incredible books, and he's written some of the best history books outside of Tolkien. That might be the best I've ever read as far as like building and developing your world. So I absolutely love his prose, is incredible. And look, guys, like I said, I'll make the jokes and be like, Winds of Winter's never coming out. But you know what? The second that it has a release date, I'm taking a day off work to read it. So I will make all those jokes, like I said, with you guys. But the second that it's out, hopefully in my lifetime, hopefully in his lifetime, I will be there day one and picking that up and reading it. Now, I have just recently read Fever Dream. Liked it quite a bit. That's the first time I've stepped outside of his World of Ice and Fire, and I liked it quite a bit. So I don't think I'm going to be, getting into like wild cards or anything like that. But again, anything else by George R. R. Martin that he comes out with, hopefully after A Song of Ice and Fire, sure, I'll probably pick it up now that I'm past the point of just being angry about the series not being done and being like, I don't want to read anything that isn't Song of Ice and Fire by George. Then I think that I can say I'll step outside that comfort zone because the man is an incredible author, incredible. And I want to give him his flowers because he deserves them. How about the Lord Ruler? He's on the list in 2020. He is still on the list. Brandon Sanderson. Now, look, I have only read Cosmere books by Brandon Sanderson, and those are always going to get an automatic buy for me, no matter what. But I bought many other series by him that are not. I've got the Starsight books. I've gotten the Legion. I've got the Reckoner. So, I will buy his books. I've just only read the Cosmere ones up to this point. But again, Brandon Sanderson, he's just so damn productive. He puts out so much. It's impossible for me to keep up with everything that the guy is writing. But I haven't read anything by Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, there's some books that didn't hit for me as well as some of the other ones. But I can't say I've ever read a Brandon Sanderson book and been like, well, that was a waste of my time. So I think the guy, he deserves his place on this list. I may not think he is infallible like a lot of other booktubers do, but I think the guy is really damn good and he deserves his place at the top of the fantasy list right now. The guy is probably the most popular fantasy author out there working today, and it's for a reason. The guy is very, very good at what he does. He's incredibly productive, and it doesn't seem like the quality drops off, despite the fact that he is that productive. So I think he's just got to be cloned or something, because the guy's always working on other projects too. He's writing numerous books at the same time. He's like, oh, by the way, I have these 4 secret books I'm going to put out that no one knew that I was writing. And he's always in. I think he teaches too. So the guy said he's a machine. He is a machine, that or he's cloned, or both. Or both. Maybe it's like the Tommy knockers, and while he's asleep, his typewriter is typing. Maybe that's the only explanation I can think for. But Brandon Sanderson obviously did not fall off of this list. I know people think because I don't think every book that he's written is a 10 out of 10 that apparently I hate Brandon Sanderson. But go back to watch that playlist I've got, guys, of Brandon Sanderson videos where I reviewed every single thing in the Cosmere, and like the lowest ranking that I gave any book was like a B-. How can you say I don't love Brandon Sanderson? He's the Lord Ruler, man. He's the Lord Ruler, and he is amazing and just a wonderful human being, too. He's just such a great guy. And I don't know. It's like the one author I think I have left that I haven't had on the channel besides Stephen King, because I don't think Stephen King would ever do that. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. I've had a lot of people ask, would you mind chatting up with Brandon Sanderson? I would love to talk to Brandon Sanderson. I just, he's not exactly knocking my door down to come talk to me. I did get a chance to talk to the next author on the list, guys. And I think, again, if you've been here longer than 5 minutes, I am an advocate for the Red Rising saga. And that's why, no matter what Pierce Brown does after Red Rising, I am giving it a go. Pierce Brown's one of those authors who gets better every single book. And I know that sounds cliche because a lot of people say that about other authors, and I feel like it kind of seems the same to me. No, every single book this guy grows as an author, and everything that he does just gets better and better and better. And guys, I mean, I'm at the bittersweet point now where like, I want that last Red Rising book, but I'm also like, but I don't want it because then it'll be over. But I am excited for what comes in the future because I believe he does want to try his hand in epic fantasy next, which sounds amazing. I can't wait to see what he does next. But Pierce Brown, like I said, his star is on the rise. I feel like Red Rising is getting more and more popular every single year. I hope I've had a tiny smidge of help in that, just getting more and more people to read the books. I am excited for this guy's career, what he's going to do for it. He's still so young. He's got so much to offer. And I can't wait to see what comes next because I think it's just going to be wonderful. If this first series is this good, it's one of those things where you have a hard time being like, okay, how do the next series do I not compare it? Well, if it's a different genre, I think that will probably help. So if it's not a sci-fi series, I think that'll probably be a little easier. But no matter what it is, it could be, a book of poetry, and I'm going to give it a try next. He has earned that, as has his what I call Pierce Brown on a different path of the beam. That would be Mr. Christopher Rocchio, the author of the Sun Eater saga. Now, I talked to Christopher a lot. I talked to him a lot about these things, and he's told me he's got some things, some irons in the fire, let's put it this way, after Sun Eater. Kind of how Pierce Brown wants to try his hand in epic fantasy next. I think that Christopher Rocchio wants to do the same. So I feel like it's that thing, where you say like rock stars want to be actors and actors want to be rock stars. I feel like sci-fi authors want to write fantasy and fantasy authors want to write, sci-fi. That's just kind of how it works. Well, Christopher, he kind of does. He actually advertises his own series as sci-fantasy. So I think he gets away with a little bit of both. But I told him recently, when I read Demon in White, I was like, I felt like the stuff that you did in court at the castle was some of the best stuff you've ever done. And that's why I'm like, I would love to see this guy just doing straight up medieval fantasy. I think it would be absolutely amazing. But Christopher is probably one of the most talented writers working them. You're just talking about his ability to, the written words, to string some words together and have you just be like, wow, that's incredible. He's up there with the best, man. I put him up there with Rothfuss. I put him up there with Robin Hobb. He has an amazing, amazing prose. And I'm not even a prose snob. And I'm noticing these things. His writing is absolutely stunning, and his story is just incredible. So if you guys haven't picked up Sun Eater yet, you'll probably be adding him to your automatic authors list as well, because book number 6 comes out next year, guys, and then book number 7, the finale. Like I said, Red Rising, 7 books, Sun Eater, 7 books. Again, I'm telling you, these guys were separated at birth. And lastly, guys, stayed on the list from 2020. This is Michael J. Sullivan. Now, look, I've fallen behind a little bit on Rhaenyra. I haven't gotten to Chronicles yet. I love Revelations. Legends of the First Empire was pretty hit or miss for me, but I want to get back to Royce and Hadrian because I feel like those are just awesome books. But he's finished up kind of a different series now. I can't remember what it's called, but he just put out Esarhaddon, so it kind of wrapped that series up. But the Rhaenyra universe is amazing, and I don't know if he's ever going to step outside of the Rhaenyra universe, but if he does, I would definitely be doing that. So I get all these books, guys, because Michael J. Sullivan is just a machine. He has an incredible process with his wife, Robin, and they just have like a really, really awesome setup. The way that, he writes the books, he writes the entire series before he releases it. He lets his wife be his alpha reader, and he fixes everything. That way you never have to wait for his books. He has a release date. Sometimes it's like 4 months between books. It doesn't matter. He gets these out one after the other, and they're always really, really satisfying. And it's hard not to like how the guy operates and how he writes. It's really, really addictive. But that's what I got, guys, for my automatic authors, I guess. Are there more that I say I would probably give a try? I mean, I know they'll have people be like, that look at some of the ones that dropped off, like Jim Butcher, or, gosh, I don't know who else I had on that list before. Jim Butcher, I'm just bringing this up as an example. I'm not singling out Jim Butcher. I think Jim's great. I have talked to Jim on the channel. Jim's a great guy. And next Dresden book, that's day one reading for me. I read Codex Alera, and I was kind of iffy on it. So I was like, okay, I don't know if I can call him automatic anymore when I just already skipped the series, and I haven't even attempted Cinder Spires yet. So I don't know if I can call him automatic at this point. But, if I was just doing series, Dresden Files would be on there. So there are several authors like that where I really, really like them. I just don't know if I say no matter what they put out. Like Robin Hobb. I don't know that no matter what she puts out, I would automatically say I'm getting that and I'm reading that for sure. So I feel like some of these authors are still room to get on this list. This isn't like a super exclusive club or anything like that. But up to this point, I think these 11 are the ones that anything they could say they put out. Like I said, they could say, I'm putting out a book of photos that I've taken over the course of my life. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll check that out. I think that these would all fall into that category. So guys, who are some of your automatic authors? There's got to be more than one. Are any of these on here? I would love to hear your list down below. As always, instead of hearing why mine sucks. But hey, I'm not above the criticism. If you don't like any of these authors, that's perfectly fine. Tell me why down below, and I will talk to you guys there.